Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hollow Time, where we three Filipino comic book movie nerds are here to discuss another massive Marvel movie again. But I think it's very this is one I feel like is going to be a really interesting conversation starter. I am Justin Quizon, and with us as well we have.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Sharma. I'm from Cinema Blend as a producer there, and I'm really excited to dive into this movie with you guys.
And Mike Manalo from the Nerds of Color. Definitely looking to getting some discussions going there, guys. So, yeah, we dressed up for the occasion.
Yes.
One of us did, and I'm sorry.
You're Superman.
Yeah. I don't wear a cape. That was a terrible Scottish accent.
Passable to me. Passable to me. I don't know any better.
Step one is acknowledging the fact that you couldn't do it, but it's okay. Listen,
there you go.
That takes something. Yeah, I mean, we all got to see it, and it's only been maybe like a week or so since we've all seen it.
Yep.
And I know I saw it with you, Justin, in LA, and you went to the premiere, Mike, which is exciting. You got to meet the Eternals. Like, you actually got to meet them.
It was definitely an exciting night for me. Highlight of my week, I'll say that much. So.
Oh, heck yeah. But yeah, let's start off with general thoughts. Justin, we talked about it, but like we've had some time to think, and I think I've also meshed out. But what do you think about this movie now?
The way I've been describing it to folks without spoiling the movie at all is that it's a whole lot of movie. That's literally the conversation. If I saw somebody else at an early, if I saw someone else post online that they also went to an early screening, I just DM'd them going, "It's a lot of movie, isn't it?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's a big movie. It's a lot of movie." And I think now that the embargo's out, I feel more confident saying the thing I kept saying over and over again that after a screening was I did feel like I binge watched an entire season of a TV show in 2.5 hours. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I did feel like I sat through like a whole lot of like Game of Thrones at once, if that makes any sense. You know,
Mike, do you have a snap decision, like a good or bad?
I overall like it, and I will say that I feel I'm more at a place with my comic book movies that if you go for a big swing, I'm gonna appreciate you a lot. You know, I'd rather appreciate a giant swing than a lazy miss. You know?
Yeah, that's a great point. Mike, what about you? I haven't really heard your opinion on it yet.
Yeah, so like you guys, I had to process it. I knew that I liked it, okay? Off the bat, I knew that I liked it. But the question for me was, here's the thing. When I got out of Shang-Chi, it was one of those things where instantaneously, in most Marvel movies, I'll have a snap reaction. I know whether I like love it or whether I just like it. And with Eternals, I didn't know. That was the crazy thing. Immediately as soon as I left it, I was like, I like this, but do I love it? I don't know if I love this or not. And then I started thinking about it as the week went on. I did. And the more that I thought about it, the more in love with it I fell. And while I can't say that I love this, it doesn't break my top 5. It's in my top 10. I'll say that much.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, it's in my top 10. Just for the sheer ambition of it and what they accomplish in this movie in the 2.5-hour runtime. It's impressed me. It's never going to probably make it anywhere close to like the top 5. But this is a really ambitious movie, and it's really well done. We'll get into details later, but I appreciate everything on display here, you know. And the other thing is, and this is a controversial opinion, I saw this after I saw Dune, okay? And Dune is 2 hours and 40 minutes as well. I think that they accomplished literally 2 things in that 2 hours and 40 minutes in Dune. You know, the fall of the House of Atreides, and he meets the Fremen. You could he does all of that in the last 30 minutes, and the remaining the rest of the 2 hours, there's nothing is done. Whereas I think funny. In a way, you know, that going into Eternals after going to see Dune and having that reception of Dune, I kind of thought to myself, this is what Dune should have been. This is a whole lot of exposition, and it's crammed into the same amount of runtime, but we get it all, and everything that's happening on screen is necessary for us to progress as the movie continues. So in my opinion, I hate to say it, I think this is a better done movie than Dune.
Oh, Thanos snap, dude. Oh,
Whoa.
Thanos snap.
Like the internet.
Wow.
Like me. Yeah.
You're entitled to your opinion. That's for sure. I think that's actually a decent, a conversation to be had, because what was on display in Eternals, and Dune, there are some, they're both very vast movies, but you're right, narratively Dune felt incomplete to me. But we're talking about Eternals, and I said this in like a tweet, but it's unlike anything I've seen in the MCU. For that, I appreciate it, right?
100%.
It felt like its own carved out section of this world that we've lived in for a while. But that's what Shang-Chi kind of did for like mythological stuff for me, and like in souls, like things like that are a little supernatural, right? So Eternals to me did that for this kind of cosmic aspect of the MCU that they're obviously wanting to branch into, right? And I appreciate it for that fact. But it is a lot of movie. I think it's not for everyone. I think it really worked for me. The third act, I think, could have been more exciting, but like it also, I said this from the get-go and I still feel it, it averted any expectation I had. So I had some theories based on the trailer, but like how the story played out, what exactly happened, it still worked for me. And I appreciated all the performances. I know some people are saying there was like flat performances, but I genuinely enjoyed everyone. I don't think everyone was super fleshed out, but I liked everyone as a family, especially.
I actually will disagree with you on that. I think, in my opinion, you get for what you get with these 10 characters. This is an ensemble piece. I mean, look behind me. That's but you get everyone's deal. You get everyone's deal, and she does it very efficiently. I will say, like, one of my favorite scenes, and I don't know how deep we're going into spoilers, but when we flash back to Hiroshima. And you see Brian Tyree Henry's character, you see Phastos. In that one moment, you get his deal with humanity. In the moments following that, you get why things have changed. And she does this throughout the movie, these little moments with all of these characters that allow you to get their deal. And that I thought was brilliant, because I don't, there's not a whole lot of movies out there that are able to do so much with so little. And I think that's the power of Chloe Zhao, knowing and loving these characters. And that to me is one of the reasons that the ensemble works. And one of the reasons why I think, the more that I think about it, this is the template to follow if you wanted to do an ensemble piece like X-Men later on. This is the template to follow, because I get Cersei's deal, I get Thena's deal, I get Druig's deal, I get Phastos' deal. And to your point, Lawrence, there's a lot of subversion in this, which I love. Because, the strongest Eternals aren't exactly the ones that save the world. It's the thinkers that save the world. So that's one subversion. The other subversion that I love, and this is more from a filmmaking and Hollywood standpoint, the biggest names in this movie are not the stars of the show. The stars of the show are the smaller names. They're Gemma Chan, they're Brian Tyree Henry, they're Barry Keoghan, they're Lauren Ridloff, and folks like Angelina Jolie, Salma Hayek are brilliant, but they take a step back. Richard Madden, who's big now, it takes a step back. And I thought that was genius of her, because we're rooting for equally talented actors that just don't headline movies very often. And that to me was super brilliant. But yeah,
I want to add to that with Mike, because I knew there was there was a bit of like kind of a, I wouldn't say controversy, but I remember there was a bit of a conversation when Gemma Chan was cast as Cersei, because of the fact that like Gemma was already in Captain Marvel. And I know there's a lot of discussion. I think this does fit into maybe our perspective as Asian Americans, where there's a discussion of like, who do you use, who do you overuse, etc. And for Gemma Chan, for some folks was like, but she was already in. Couldn't you have tried and gotten another Asian actress at the same level of notoriety as Gemma? No offense to Gemma in that part, into which I go, I understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, why are we denying her a real shot at a lead like this. That's why I don't really understand some of some of that kind of conversation where it's like, well, you've already used that person. But when was that actor a lead?
Yeah.
You know, and you know, she lucked out that she was in blue makeup and totally a different character. That's fine. So it's that case where here it's like, no, she is to me the heart of the film.
Yes.
And I love that she stepped up. And like yeah, you know, at the end of the film I was like, oh, Gemma Chan is my favorite thing in the movie by bar none. Amazing. And I think she rises to the occasion, both in terms of the narrative, that's her story, but also in terms of what she was asked to do on screen. So I feel like, why are you denying her a shot at this point in her career? If she's ready for it, you know? So I feel like that's my feeling on something like that, you know?
Yeah. I she really stood out to me as like as you know, it's her lens really that we're seeing everything through for the most part. And it's her burden that she has to take on throughout the film, which is it was really cool to see, because I didn't expect it to be like it was really her eyes that I felt like I was seeing a lot of the story unfold. And you know, there are some things that I loved about it, and there are some things I like I don't know if I have problems with, but I'm still processing, right? Like the whole galaxy just opened up very, very wide. The Celestials are a very large concept, and what they kind of unwrap in the movie without getting into any juicy details, it's so much to think about, right? And I've heard people say that it's like, oh, it makes like Infinity War stuff inconsequential. I'm like, I disagree with that, because comics have always expanded to like this like larger picture, right? So we're used to this like the weird stuff, you know, like being like, oh, this is like, these are gods basically, and you know, like and so but you know, so there was Jack Kirby influence. Obviously there was like pops of colors, very Chloe Zhao, obviously this is her movie. And the Celestials are a very Jack Kirby, but it was like toned down, right? They said that it was like it's all based on his design, but I feel like they crafted something that really works for the MCU, right? Like they're godlike, but they don't all have the same power, right? Like I like that they diversified what Eternals were, because you know, it's like power dampening in the MCU has always kind of worked, and I trust where that process goes, right? I thought standouts for me, you said Lauren Ridloff, she was great. I love Makari. Awesome. Her presence, best super speed I've ever seen on film for me.
Me too.
Honestly.
Me too.
Oh, agreed.
I agree.
Amazing. I love the scale of how she ran. I love how it looked in battle.
There was an audible clap in my theater in that scene at the end, right? With her. And I'm not going to go into spoilers, but she has a scene in that final battle where the audience just went fucking nuts.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I think in our theater there was a lot of we were in like a theater of critics, I'm pretty sure.
Of course.
It was there was a stillness in the air, right? So when I laughed, I was like, am I the only one laughing at some parts, you know? Because Kumail, he was a scene stealer, dude. He anytime he was on screen, I was like, this guy is amazing. I love Kingo. And then I also love Karun, his valet.
Such a good character.
That character had such a potential to not work at all.
And he was so beautiful. Brilliant. He was a beautiful addition. There's just, again, no spoilers, but he just says and has an impact on the family in a way. Like it's, again, another lens. And it's like we felt part of it, right? Something I will say is that the representation's off the charts, right? We have Latinos getting represented. We have Asians represented, South Asians. Oh my God. Like what the hell is happening? Right. So I'm very excited about that, right? Because it's the first time for a lot of people that they're going to see themselves that powerful almost. Right. But I'm wondering for you guys, what do you think about, I don't know if this is too spoilery, but I was going to ask about the impact on this for the MCU for you guys? Because like I said, it expanded quite a bit.
Yeah.
But and you know, the conversation is like, is it getting too niche? You know, like these cosmic things are going to become like what polarizes people from watching, you know?
Right.
Or are you excited about the opportunities? How do you feel coming out of this movie? Because I think that's going to be a big conversation, personally.
Icarus?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's time to separate the real comic book fans from the mainstream audience. No, it's so funny because, you know, I'm not going to go into any spoilers. I think that things have been spoiled enough on the internet.
Yeah, we can wait a while
which
before we start dropping things.
Like the night of the premiere, somebody spoiled something huge. It was
don't even
guy
get
from
me.
Variety. I'll name drop him. I don't care.
I saw it, unfortunately, like literally hours before.
I mean, why the hell would you do that? So I'm not going to pull a Variety on anyone, but when I did see visually what they were planning for the MCU, I was just like, this is gonna get insane. Like, but then again, I thought to myself, but welcome to the world of comic books. That's literally what they've been doing in these books for, you know, decades already, since the 60s and 70s and everything like that. This is it's expanding things in such, it's somewhat niche characters, but so are the Guardians of the Galaxy, so was Shang-Chi. You know, there's room for this if people are accepting and if you tell the stories well. And I think that I have theories as well. I don't necessarily want to get into them on this less spoilery talk than you know, on a future talk. But I think that we're also going to get into this is going to lead into a big story arc for the MCU. I don't want to say which, but I think I'll text you guys after. But I think it's going to lead into something really, really huge and really exciting if the, you know, last frame of this movie is any indicator. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I'm curious to see what you're talking about. I have an idea, but I'm curious.
Okay.
I feel like I'm with you, Mike, on that. Is like, I feel like I want the comic shit. I want that comic book stuff, you know, and I feel like that's the beauty of comic books is it can go intimate, it can go big, and even the intimate part clashes with the big, you know, and I love that we're at this point that we can do this. I know it's going to be polarizing, and I feel like if they do this right, you know, the whole point is that, look, you don't need to eat every ice cream. We're just telling you there's a lot of varieties at the shop.
That's so great. Oh, you know? My gosh.
Like, we're not asking you to put every 36 flavors on the cone, but, you know.
But this is Spumoni. You may not want this one.
You may not want this one. It's an acquired taste, but I like that it's available. You know, and as a person who's a massive Jack Kirby fan, I love that. One, he's properly credited as the creator of the Eternals, which is rare in a Marvel credit. You know, sometimes they're pulling from multiple sources, so they can't really credit one person. Like a Captain America movie, you can't really say Captain America created by Jack Kirby, Joe Simon, but also Winter Soldier was created by Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting. So it's like you can't do all that once. But Eternals is such Kirby's project concept. It can very identifiably, cleanly say created by Jack Kirby. And I love there's a lot of Jack Kirby in this movie. And Jack thinks big, massive. And I remember when Celestials showed up in Guardians, and my brain went, we're bringing Celestials?
And we're talking about this? Oh, we're
doing
seeing
Celestials?
This?
We're doing Celestial talk? And then here, this movie, it's all about that. And I'm all for it, you know, and I like the fact that, like, we are here at this point where I can talk about, someone's going to talk to me at my day job when, hey, tell me about this Celestial thing. And my brain's like, man, you told me this 10 years ago. I would have
never have thought.
Never thought that. I was weirded that someone had an opinion about what my thoughts were about the Ant-Man casting back when Paul Rudd got cast. And we're talking about Ant-Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here we are. We're going to talk about Eternals and the Celestials and all that. And I'm for it. I don't like Mike said, like this is now where a time where we're like, are you in or not? You know? Like,
get in or get out.
Get in or get out. You know, this is
about
part
to
of
get
the
weird. It's been weird.
It's getting good. It's going to get weirder.
I mean, if there's one thing to say about Phase 4 as a whole, even starting with WandaVision, that kicked everything off. Things are weird already.
Opening it up
already.
Tearing it open, man.
You got to give Marvel Studios credit for trusting their audience as much as they are. You know,
when they're saying you can handle this concept.
Exactly. When you have, you know, WandaVision, when you have, you know, Loki talking about the TVA and variants and, you know, the sacred timeline and all of that, you know, I mean, like, you're trusting them with information that is just like, you know, very huge, very convoluted. And I think that's one of the things that they're asking you to do with Eternals. They're asking you to trust them, with, and trust, you know, with this information that they're giving you, which is a lot of information. But they're really saying you're smart and you can handle it. You like this sort of thing, and you're following along. You're doing the theories. You're speculating about Mephisto, who hasn't even made it to film.
Right.
You know, every 5 seconds, you know, so you can handle this, and that's huge for any mainstream studio, you know, production company to do that. So that's admirable in my opinion. You know,
I want to say something too, kind of like a weird, I wouldn't say a PSA, but maybe like to a certain sector of the Marvel fan base. I also need you guys to maybe chill out a little bit and be a little patient, because I feel like there's a little bit of them going, but what's this all leading to? What's this thing? What's this going to lead into? We were waiting on a Thanos for 4 years or 10 years. And then, so what's this? I mean, guys, you didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
When the first movies came out, like, I know that sadly, this is how they wrecked your brain into thinking now this everything leads into an event, which is, hey, again, welcome to comic books. But I need you all to chill and just let Black Widow be Black Widow, let Shang-Chi be Shang-Chi, let 100%. Eternals be Eternals. And then when they start saying this is the story, you know, Phase 5 or maybe at the end of Phase 4, probably at the end of Phase 4, then we can all be like, what did we tell you? Chill and just right now enjoy Gilgamesh punching out a giant deviant into a building, which is rad, you know.
So when we got out of the theater, dude, when we got out of the theater, I was I'm not gonna like say anyone's name, but like I was so taken aback by the opinion of like the dialogue was weak, or why did this happen, or like what was the point of this. Like it was like I almost saw it like no, this movie is divisive, we know that for sure.
100%.
It's not going to be for everyone, but I disagreed with a lot of points ultimately, right? I thought about what everyone was saying, and even the negative things I see, I take it in, I absorb that, and I try to see it from their lens, because I think that's important, right?
100%.
But at the same time, I'm really excited for what this is doing. It like I said, it's carving out a full mythology. It's introducing a high concept, and what Marvel is doing, to your point, Mike, is they're saying like, you've seen time travel before in other movies, it's here. You've seen supernatural stuff, it's here. Like, you've seen dragons, we fucking got them. And now they're saying like, this is our artisan film. This is our, this is our weird shit, man. Like, it's gonna get weirder. The Multiverse of Madness is gonna be weird. I think No Way Home is gonna be really, really weird. And you're right. They're trusting the audience to just be like grow with us. Like this is like, we're deep in the science fiction portion of this genre, and still we're finding a way to diversify each film. I think it was incredibly unique. It's beautiful. And obviously the locations are worth it, right? But I think, to everyone's point, the scale is so huge and yet all these moments that we're getting are so intimate to me. And not a lot needs to be said for you to feel what's going on. Like, they don't need to talk in long monologues to each other. Maybe when they're learning information about the universe, sure. But like to each other, they say a lot with a look. You know, they've lived a long life, and you have to trust that these people have been here for thousands of years and lived with humanity and seen us grow, kind of shaped us in a lot of way, right? Like that's the concept.
That's one of the best things I think about this movie, and what Chloe does with this movie is you're absolutely right, La. You hit it on the head. It's a huge concept, but it's rooted in these intimate relationships. Everything that she's doing in this movie is driven by character. Every choice, every conflict but that's occurring in this movie, it's character based. And that's what I really loved about it. And that's why I think this is the template for the ensemble film, the superhero team movie, if you ever do it, because, you know, when you think about the X-Men at its core and all the things that we love about the X-Men, it's really these personal battles about ideology, you know, at its core. People that believe in one thing for themselves, and then people that believe in another thing, and not seeing eye to eye, but ultimately fighting so hard tooth and nail for those beliefs. And we're seeing that as well in Eternals, without going into spoilers. And to me, the foundation of that conflict is rooted in the relationships that these guys have with one another, but also with humanity, and how that impacts them, how that shapes them throughout this 7,000-year journey that they've taken on Earth. And to me, that's huge to do, but, you know, because of the scope and scale of things, but it's so personal because it's all rooted in who these specific characters, their personalities and everything are. And you know, definitely respectful of people that don't really understand or didn't really see, you know, whether characters were fleshed out fully. But I think if you pay really close attention to each one of these characters, there's a motivation, a logic, a reason, and a personality to all of them that's very distinct from one another, and that's very difficult to do in any movie. So I got to give props to Chloe for that. Yeah,
there's 10 of them. It's a huge cast, and yet, but I understood Sprite's personality, to Kingo's personality.
Yes,
you know, and that is quite an accomplishment.
That's true
for a movie, even it's 2.5 hours long. They also got to tell you all about his celestial and births and immortality and superpowers. And by the way, this guy was at Hiroshima. FYI,
they literally time jumped thousands of years, and at no point was I've never felt bored in this movie for as much exposition and dialogue or like they literally. I thought it worked for under 3 hours because scenes really. I felt like that I was breathing in the scene. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like any moment had to be rushed necessarily. Not to me. And I don't think that's going to be the response for everyone, because they're expecting a bunch of fist fights or like, you know, a bunch of laser beams shooting everywhere. And while this movie has it, it's not the most important part. It's the lore that you're learning, because that's so important to where we're going. And it's the people, or like, you know, we're showing these cosmic beings as humans.
I will say though, those things you're talking about are extremely well executed. And like Chloe, I feel like, because I've heard that Chloe Zhao is a big anime fan, she's a big comic fan. There's the thing I kind of told someone at the after a screening, I was like, that's her going, all right, let's do this. Let's do this.
Ooh, I like that.
She was so excited. You can feel her being so excited at Athena's battle sequences, all the times Gilgamesh slapped down a thing. All of the speedsters sequence were incredible. You can see her going like, okay, I did the dramas on the road, I did the drama with the horse. I love doing those things, but I want to punch stuff. I want to see superhero. I want to see Icarus fly through the sky and use his energy beams to blow up a demon. I want to see Kumail Nanjiani do his finger gun laser blasts and take guys out. And they're all perfectly executed with with someone who was like, let me at it, I want to do this, and I think, but like you said, also all that, but she zeroes in on character.
Yes.
100%.
And that's efficient storytelling if you think about it. When you have 2.5 hours, you're using those wisely, and I do agree that at certain points, to your point, Law, I didn't feel bored, but I could understand people potentially feeling it drag. But I also feel like she really balances out the exposition and the action. Like you'll have at least 3 action sequences in a row before you slow things down. And then you'll slow things down for a good period of time and then cut to another large action sequence. It's pretty, admittedly, as much as I love Chloe, it's known throughout fans of hers that she does like to do slow burns, things like The Rider, things like Nomadland. They're very they take their time and they tell this story and everything like that. So a lot of folks that I talked to were worried that the pacing for this was going to be slow. And for an MCU film, yeah, sure, that is it absolutely is. But for a Chloe Zhao film, I thought it was actually really well paced. In comparison to a lot of the other films that I've really admired and loved of hers, this is the one that kind of, it knows when it's slowing down and then it picks things up with an action sequence at least, so that your attention's not fully strained from there. And it's not perfect in terms of how pacing should be in a film, perhaps, but it was good enough to at least engage me. I'm very curious to see if mainstream audiences will find that similarly. I have my skepticisms. I think that folks like things to go a little bit faster, especially if they're expecting 26 films in, the MCU's pacing to be very quick. But to me, I thought it very much worked as a Chloe Zhao piece that was for mainstream audiences, So I thought that was really interesting.
I think what's important to bring that up, and I kind of brought this up after our screening, Lawrence, was that like Chloe Zhao would have never have gotten to do this movie if it wasn't for a Marvel movie. She wouldn't have given this budget. She wouldn't have been allowed to make it the way that she got to here. And you gotta appreciate the fact that Marvel and Disney are like, well, we were 25 movies in. I think we're allowed to take a couple of risks that may not be what people expect from us. And of all the complaints I hear about Marvel movies, they're all the same, they look the same, they hear the same, blah blah blah. This is going to be a big difference, and I swear I'm going to hear nothing but complaints about how it's slow,
exactly,
and boring, etc. And I'm like, y'all keep complaining about every one of these looking the same. Here's one that legitimately looks like none of them, and you're gonna still complain.
You're gonna be like, why is this not part of the Marvel formula? I wrote that in my review on Nerds of Color at the same time. I said, if I was a Marvel Studios executive, I wouldn't know what to do with this information, because I'd be like, wait, you were telling me for 25 movies that all of these movies are the same, and now I do something different, and you're complaining that it's not the same as the others. What do you want? You know?
The answer is they don't know. But but no, I completely agree. And I told this to Lawrence. I was like, I'm gonna go to an event. Someone's gonna tell me, oh, I saw that Eternals. Kind of boring. And I went, okay. I know it. I'm gonna hear it.
Sure.
It's gonna happen. The conversation.
He already hears the voice and sees the face.
I think we all
have.
I know.
I think we all have a handful of these people that are gonna have complaints about things that I genuinely appreciated. The fact that I cared about Dane Whitman in this movie, who is only around, for a couple minutes, right? Like all together, and all of the Eternals, right?
Right.
And somehow somehow showing us like the depths of space, you know what I mean? Like somehow it all works. And I have to say, I really like Kit Harington. He was such a breath of fresh air in this movie for me, because it's heavy, guys. Like, it's dense, and he's like a little bit of creamer in your coffee, it smooths it out a little bit, because he's just a joy to see. Same with Kumail. He's a joy when he's on screen, but he also has some big moments. Everyone has big moments. I really liked all the performances. I've said that already, but I think they handle the scope of the story very, very well. I don't think any of us disagree with that. But it is going to be polarizing because people are just not going to be into the higher concept stuff in the same way that they're like, well, Loki was kind of weird for me. It's like, that's not even, that's like the basis of, you're going to have a hard time watching Marvel because we're literally jumping around in realities at this point.
Yeah.
And Eternals carves out yet another, there's just big moves happening in the MCU. I'm very, very excited. I can't wait for people to see it so that we could talk about the next thing, because there's some exciting post-credit scenes. Justin, you saw me trying to like process after the movie, because not only is the movie dense, but the implications of what happens and moving forward are so interesting, right? And Shang-Chi opened up that kind of like imaginative side to my brain again in the MCU, because I was like, whoa, where are we going? Like, what does this mean, right? But yeah, I'm kind of like I'm along for the ride at this point, because Eternals, like Guardians, I didn't know a lot about them, but now I'm invested in their story, right? Like, I think maybe down the road, everything that happens here might carry more weight to people when it starts tying in, right? In the same way that like Ultron kind of has new life, in the same way that like Dark World even has some new life after the events of like Endgame, right? So I'm hoping that the people who don't like it now could also give it a shot later, or like see why it's important at least, because it's going to be so important. This movie is just like a giant stepping stone in a lot of ways for what's next. But yeah, it's hard for me to nitpick things I didn't like, because I didn't not like anything. You know, I just enjoyed the movie, but definitely didn't like leave me with like, I watched a blockbuster, but I also watched like an indie drama. Like, that's how it felt. Like, it felt like this like cool amalgamation. I love the concept of like X-Men being told in a similar story, because you're right, it really does work. It worked for me.
Yeah,
it worked for us, I think. But based on what I've heard other people say, they just don't like it. Like, they plain just like don't see its impact on the MCU, and that's unfortunate, because I think it's a risk, and I think it was worth it.
And I think, to me, part of it is also because the explicit nature of how a lot of different other films, Shang-Chi, for example, with the post-credit scenes for Shang-Chi, obviously explicitly connecting to the rest of the MCU. There's no, even when Wong is fighting the Abomination, they're very, Chloe is very light on those types of references throughout the movie, and it's super intentional. It really is. She wants you to focus on the Eternals and this cosmic storyline, and less so on what happened with Endgame, what happened with all of that, to the point where, to a fault even, I think I got a little bit infuriated, because not infuriated like, I hate this movie or whatever, but like, I thought it was very dissatisfying, the whole explanation behind why they didn't intervene with Infinity War or Endgame or Thanos or anything like that. To me, that was a little unsatisfying, but it's not the point. It's not the point of this movie. And the connectivity of this film to the rest of the MCU will end up being revealed over time. But right now, I love that Chloe just wants us to focus on this. And she just it's decoupled for a reason, she's doing all of this intentionally. And you might not like it, and you might not like this movie because of that. But I do think, to Justin's point, to something that you've been saying all this entire time, Marvel's afforded the right to do that at this point in time. And I think a lot of people were already complaining, why does everything have to be connected? Like, why can't you just tell a straight up story? And that's what Chloe's doing here. She's telling a straight up story.
Yeah.
Don't complain that it's not like as connected to the rest of the MCU. Marvel Studios has gotten to a point where they're so big, they are damned if they do and damned if they don't at this point.
100%.
So enjoy the ride. To your point, Law, just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the story that they're trying to tell you here. More importantly than even the story itself, enjoy the characters. We have to enjoy the characters because we're going to see them several times before.
Yeah.
You know, when the first Iron Man came out, people were kind of like, this is just, you know, it's an okay movie, but it's elevated by an amazing performance. None of which I agree with. I think it's an amazing movie and an amazing performance. But
right.
The point of Iron Man, the biggest takeaway from it was you walked away loving Tony Stark.
Yeah.
You walked away loving Robert Downey Jr. And that is so critical. And people kind of gave lukewarm reviews to First Avenger, Captain America First Avenger when it came out, and Thor when it first came out. But they loved Hemsworth. They loved Thor. They loved Evans. They loved Steve. You know, and that was so important because when you brought them all together in the Avengers, you know, it paid off in spades because you just love these characters. And I think that that's the important thing here. If you don't love the story, if you find it convoluted, or if you find it boring, or if you don't like the fact that it's not as connected to the MCU, appreciate the characters at least, and the character work going on here, because it's very well done in my opinion, and we're gonna see these guys a lot. So get used to their faces.
Get used to them. 100%. Marvel. That is Marvel's strength.
Yeah.
They create. The movies create characters that you end up loving.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing feat. And look, please, DC Snyder fans, please don't attack me with the next thing I'm going to say. But that's what DC's been. Thank you, appreciate it. DC's been struggling with that. Yes, they've been struggling with that, and and it's the reason why they're trying to figure out what to do next to make their movies work for everyone. The thing is that, whether you like Man of Steel as an individual film or Batman v Superman as an individual film, that's your opinion, whatever. But the general audience is having a hard time connecting with this version of Batman and Superman. That's why Wonder Woman worked. They connected to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. That's why Aquaman worked, for as stupid of a movie as it is. And I love it for how stupid that is. Yeah,
it's awesome. The stupidity is awesome. I love that.
The stupidity is awesome.
It's part of it. It's part of it all.
It's absolutely its charm.
It's an Aquaman movie, y'all. It's gonna be fucking silly.
James wanted to do what he was doing. I mean,
100%. He knew what movie he was making. Flash Gordon underwater, and and I love the Flash Gordon movie, but that's what that movie is. But
that's so good.
But that movie is held by Momoa being as charming of a dude as he is. The Suicide Squad, when that came out, even though box office numbers were or whatever, online you wouldn't have noticed. Everyone was talking about how much they loved Peacemaker and Ratcatcher.
Yeah, my favorite.
Same. And you want to know why? Because you brought a guy who did the same thing at Marvel. Yeah. Because James Gunn is one of the many people that understands you have to make these people enjoyable, likable, and definitive. Yeah. And Eternals is another film that does that. And Marvel will continue to do this over and over again until the day that until the one movie that we all are that's not the one. Until then, that's their strength. That's why when they do Endgame and Infinity War, and why we're wanting these crossover movies, is that at some point we want to know what Kingo thinks of Spider-Man. Yeah. We want to see what they
he seems like a great guy. I'm gonna see if I can get him in my movies. What's his name? Peter Parker?
Okay. Side note, I was looking up who they were originally in the comics, because the comics, I'm not gonna lie, even though I'm a big Kirby fan, I've only really read a little of Eternals, and so I'm not as familiar with them. And I want to say my favorite reinterpretation is Kingo, because Kingo in the comics, he was a master swordsman, and Japanese looking, so which makes sense when Kirby created him. Very much like, I want a Toshiro Mifune. You can hear that. So he created it because the purpose of Kingo is that he becomes a movie star
Mhm.
in Japan, and I didn't know that. So what I thought that was really neat is they took that, reinterpreted it, going like, oh, what if he's still an Asian character, but maybe not a movie? They made him a Bollywood star. I went, that's a wonderful reinterpretation.
It's great. It
Yes,
works.
it is.
And you
And
know, we still have representation across the board, you know,
Mhm.
like they made Gilgamesh is Gilgamesh, y'all. Like
Yeah.
all the stories you've ever heard about Gilgamesh, this guy gets the credit. And also, what a performance. Don Lee knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Every moment that they gave, every line that he had, I was like, this guy, there's something so cool about him. And I
Yeah.
can say that about a lot of the characters, even Richard Madden's Icarus. Something so like, there's like, it's something debonair about him.
Mhm.
And while we jump through time, we also see them in like a younger state of mind. So the subtleties in like, I'm new to all this versus like, I've lived a long life and I've seen some stuff. I don't know. It was beautifully done.
Yeah.
If you had to give it a rating,
Mhm.
like out of 10,
Okay.
how would you rate it right now? Because I think I need another viewing
Sure.
and a spoiler conversation with the boys, just like to like really delve in
Yeah.
post movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like really fresh. But what would you give it out of 10 right now?
Justin, you got a number? I got a number, but do you?
I do have a number.
What's your number?
Okay, my number as of right now is a solid 8.
Yeah.
Solid 8.
Mm.
Give me time.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate that my light went out in the back. So don't you go. All right now. But a solid 8 for ambition, for character work.
Yeah.
I'm not here to like, I will even concede to the fact that the plot may be a little bit clunky on first viewing.
Yeah.
I feel though I will care less about that if I watch it again.
Yeah.
Because I'm me personally, I'm character first.
Yes.
You know, I'm not saying a good plot is not necessary, clearly, but I'm character first. I'm a character first person. And if I am invested into the characters, at the end of the day, I don't really care that much about plot. That being said, the plot is interesting.
Yes.
Specifically, when we get to that third act, it is not the movie. I think we all can agree that is not where we thought that was going to go.
Yep.
And I have to give it that for that reason.
It's more subversion, you know, it's what it is. It's more subversion, and audiences have a hard time with subversion. That's I understand that, and I get that, and I respect that. It's fine. That, though. Wait, what's up?
I said fuck them. I love it.
It just took me a second to hear fuck them.
I just love it. I love it. Sorry, Mike. Go on.
No. That's absolutely fuck them. Who cares? But having said that, Justin, I'm very similar to you. I'm going to give it half a point more. It's an 8.5 for me. And that's after about a week of ruminating on it. The weaknesses that I have with it, I do think you could trim off a little bit of the second act, although it's kind of hard to think about where, because like a lot of it really is necessary to progress the plot. But to Justin's point, even though things start out slow, they get better and they get better and they get better. And there's at least, in my opinion, 2 twists in this movie that I think make the movie like so much more interesting and so much more intriguing as things go on. And that to me, I loved very much. I do like the story, much like Justin, because to me, I'm not going to say, it's actually at the very beginning of the movie. But at its core, there's something of a murder mystery behind a lot of this. You know, there's something of a murder mystery in this plot line. And I think that that's fascinating and that's very intriguing. You know, a lot of questions that are raised at the very beginning of this movie that eventually, when they get answered in ways that you don't expect. And they're so much better than the ways that you were expecting, which I really liked about it. But so I do like the plot line. I do like the storyline. I do think there's some complexities in there, and Chloe does an amazing job handling all of those complexities in 2.5 hours. And in a lot of ways, to Justin's point, the best thing about this is character. That sells this entire movie for me forever. I will say, I started thinking about it a little bit more. This shares a lot of commonalities with Watchmen. I don't know if you guys, thought about that. It shares a lot of commonalities with Watchmen.
I actually do agree with you. I totally think was that. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a group of heroes that have been split up for some time that have to get back together. They solve a murder mystery. There's a lot of subversion in there. It's really like Marvel's almost answer to Watchmen in some ways, and I thought
it's a better movie than Watchmen.
It's a better movie than Watchmen. Here's the thing. I'm not a Snyder fan. Snyder did the best that he could with the material and in the amount of time that he got. It's not his fault, and I actually do enjoy Watchmen. I think the series is superior, but yeah, the series is superior. But I think Eternals has a lot of that Watchmen sort of baseline almost, and it does a better job with it than the Watchmen movie. But I do think, I felt bad because Don Lee doesn't get as much to do as I wanted him to. Sure. I think, definitely Kit Harington, poor guy, gets shafted a lot. And you're right, Law, he does so much with what he's given, but it's just not that much, and that's okay. We're setting things up, so it's fine.
Charming as hell, though.
Charming as hell.
So nice.
And the one thing that I'll ding it on was just the unsatisfactory explanation about the where these guys were for Endgame and everything. It felt like kind of just like a cop out, and that's fine. But apart from that, those minor gripes, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think I had as much fun with it as I did with like Shang-Chi, which I gave a 9 to, basically, or an A- to. Yeah. But I do think that is a very good movie in and of itself. The action's not as good as Shang-Chi, for example, but it's still really good, really entertaining action. And hands down, the most ambitious movie that this studio has ever put out, under the hands of one of its most talented one of the most talented filmmakers they've ever worked with. So yeah, mad props to Chloe, mad props to Marvel. I like this movie. I don't care who fights me for it, So yeah.
I'll just like kind of end with this. I think it's a beautiful film. It's unlike anything that we've seen. It really works for me, and I want to like it more. I think I will like it more. It feels like it's modern mythology in a really big way. It feels like a book. It feels like I think you put it wonderfully, Justin, when you said it feels like you binge watch the season, because you're right. You guys are right. Like, you just know these people. For me, it totally works. And I just need to sort out what it is. And I think a second viewing is just gonna, my expectation, while it's subverted and exciting in the moment, now that I settled into some thoughts, I think a second viewing could really like shape how I see it. Because the same thing happened with Shang-Chi, like I started to see other things that I was like, oh, interesting. But Eternals, because it's such a big movie, I feel like the one viewing was enough, Yeah. And I'm hoping I feel a little bit more strongly after a second watch.
Okay, now we don't have to go too long, but I feel let's put a giant spoiler warning right now, because I feel like we have to do a little all-in talk on the two scenes, just for a tiny bit.
Yeah,
a little bit at the end credit sequence, because I feel like I will burst without talking about it. So one of them, sadly, the internet just couldn't help itself because of the variety thing you brought up, and now everyone's talking about it. Let's discuss mid-credit sequence. What the hell is Harry Styles doing in the MCU?
I can give a shit about Eros or Harry Styles. Pip is here. Pip by Patton Oswalt showed up. Are you kidding me? I know that they're often together, but are you kidding me? That's for real?
So
I was like, my god.
When I first saw this, I'm not like a big One Direction guy, so I thought maybe that might have been Harry Styles. But when everyone else in the row behind me was going like, oh my god, it's Harry Styles, I was like, Star Fox? Like, it's fucking Star Fox? Like that's what mattered to me was they were introducing Eros, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
that's crazy.
and I was like, I've got that action figure like right there in my Infinity Gauntlet set. I would never have thought they were gonna fucking make this guy, and then bring him into the MCU. And they freaking did. And then I guess everyone was like, Harry Styles. And I was like, oh yeah, it's Harry Styles. And then that's the reaction that I ended up having was like, I was like, fucking Star Fox, what the hell? Like,
mine's a combination of all three yours reactions, including the what the fuck is Harry Styles doing in the MCU?
Yeah.
Like because I said it out loud next to Law, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. We what the fuck together.
As he walked into screen and went, one, Star Fox. Two, he's introduced as Thanos' brother.
Yeah.
So we're still addressing that. And three, it's Harry Styles. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
What
because he's Prince
right
Eric, and they were like, you want to be in the MCU, buddy?
and also he's buddies with Barry Keoghan. They were in Dunkirk together.
Oh,
right.
Marvel is a system of refer a friend, guys. Everyone's been in a movie with everyone at this point in time.
Friends.
We're friends in the MCU. But you're right. Like Pip, Patton Oswalt, Pip.
Good for him. He's all over the MCU, dude. He's also MODOK. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Good for Patton Oswalt living his dreams, my man. And now he's a cosmic character that I think I will say, I hope that they clean up the CGI just a little bit before theatrical.
Of course.
Because Pip was the weakest looking thing in the whole experience. And he stood out because it's like they didn't really rely on CGI in this movie, which I loved. Like, yes, obviously the deviants are CGI, but they so much of it feels practical. When he's floating in the air, you could tell he's up there. You know what I mean? Like Pip looked rough. And I hope
it wasn't the best.
Just because of the quality of what we've gotten so far, it's like I know you have it in you to make that look better. No disrespect to CGI artists, because that was probably
a rush job.
It looks like a rush job.
But yes, I think the implications of more Eternals was already a big thing. And now that Harry Styles is there, that's a big casting, right? They're not going to waste him.
No, exactly.
And then, like you said, he's Thanos' brother, which makes what Mike was like his complaint of like, why didn't they do anything? Because technically he had the deviant gene in him. If we're going this route, right? Like, should have done something.
And to me, the other issue that I had, the reason that I found it unsatisfying, since we're already on spoiler talk, if the Celestials wanted to escalate production faster and Thanos slowed them down, why wouldn't they want them to intervene and stop Thanos? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't,
That's a great point.
That's a fantastic point, actually.
But
it's a good one. That's a good point.
It's fine. It is what it is.
But I do want to talk about the second. Because that one got me very excited. There's a couple reasons why. I think Black Knight's a really interesting character, and I love Kit Harington. He obviously can play medieval very well. Not that he has to be medieval, but he could fight with a sword very well. We know this already. The ebony blade itself is an interesting thing to have. You know what I mean? It's we're going deeper into supernatural, which I love, especially with this is a curse that we're talking about, and then the voice at the end, who I think we can all agree was Mahershala Ali as Blade.
Oh no!
Who was that?
I thought it was Jeffrey Wright. It's Uatu.
The Watcher.
I thought it was the Watcher.
I think it's Blade. And Mahershala was like, "You sure you ready for that? Because it's gonna lead you down a road of it's a curse, Because we got the casting announcement at Comic-Con.
You sure?
For Mahershala Ali.
Are you sure? Now, what's funny is like
that's my thought.
Now I'm I was so all in on the Mahershala talk. We were all talking about it at our screening, and Mike, now you just sort of.
But now the multi. Oh, you're right.
That does sort of make more sense if it's Uatu, because they just finished What If.
I will say I'm cheating a little bit. The only reason that I got confirmed that it was Jeffrey was because he was literally at the premiere. So yeah, he was there. And so was Patton. And when Patton showed up, I was like, why the hell is Patton here? You know, it's just because he's MODOK and he just wanted to attend. But then obviously Pip came out, right? And then a little bit later, Jeffrey Wright came. And I was like, well, is it just because he's What If? You know, he's just the one. So yeah, it's not. I honestly didn't pick up on it like audibly when I first saw the end credits scene. There was a gentleman behind me that was like, it's the Watcher, it's Jeffrey Wright, and I was like, oh my god, it is, oh dude. So that's why I do think it's Uatu. It would have been really cool if it was Blade, but I don't know. It might be. That'd be really cool if it is, but I think it's Uatu.
I think. Okay, so we're in a very interesting spot right now where I so thought it was the other thing. Because that was the talk. Everyone was like, oh, it's clearly him. I went, oh, cool, rad. And now, but I was thinking, why is he in like England? And what's he talking? He has jack to do with Black Knight. But if it's Uatu, that mofo can show up anywhere. And he's already interfered many times.
That just completely obliterated where my thought process was for the future.
I feel bad about that. I'm so sorry.
Because I was so sure, because at Comic-Con when they announced the Eternals cast, they're also we also casted Mahershala Ali as Blade. We don't know when the movie's gonna, and it sounded like him. But if you literally saw the Watcher with your own eyes at the premiere, along with cameo number 2, the only thing missing was Harry Styles.
That's why Harry Styles definitely wasn't at the premiere. Everyone, why are you here?
He was waiting for Variety to announce it before.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I'll say this because I think I do need a wrap soon. But I'll say this about the spoiler around Harry Styles. Yes, it was tragic and horrible that he did that. But all of the other places that just were like, it's already out there, and ran headlines with like an image and like just saying like, introduced into the MCU, Harry Styles this, he was trending. That sucked, dude. Because that's such a big secret, and you could tell it was kind of maybe one of the last things that they tacked on, right? Like it's a post-credit scene. It's not, but it's such an unfortunate thing. I'm glad that that's the only thing that people had cared about, but the implications of Star Fox obviously are going to be much larger than anyone can assume. But that's what they're taking away. It's like, oh, this is the movie that Harry Styles is in, which is a bummer.
Right.
And you know the other tragedy behind it is there were New York screenings earlier that day. They didn't get the post-credit scene.
Get it.
We heard.
And they're probably not going to get it next time.
LA probably won't either, for that matter.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, what a bummer, dude. I'm glad that...
Thanks,
I'll
Variety.
be honest, when we were watching it, I was like, I don't even know if we're going to get it.
Yeah.
I hope we do. And we did, obviously. But I was worried because I was just like, well, we messed up. Like in their eyes, in Marvel's eyes, the fans messed up, or the critics messed up.
Punish Variety. Don't punish all.
Right.
Press, you know?
Right. Don't judge all of us.
Did you see that other Variety? It's a different movie. It was they were interviewing for Spencer, Kristen Stewart for Spencer. And they asked her about playing the Joker and Robert Pattinson's The Batman.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And her response was like something along the lines like, let's do something new. Let's move past that. I don't know. Let's do something different. But I was like, you really asked Kristen Stewart that? That's embarrassing. I thought it was a horrible, horrible thing. But it went trending. What do I know about
It's
entertainment journalism?
yeah, I heard about that and I thought it was extremely in bad taste. And went like,
You know what?
you
Why
like
does it
not
matter?
it's
That's
a
a stupid question.
stupid question. And a lot of multiple reasons why that seemed like kind of like you didn't really think about how like that's sort of like kind of awkward and implicate. All right.
Yeah.
You know, whatever.
You want to ask another question about an X?
Seriously.
You have another one? No? Cool.
You're a major outlet. You should know these things. We're smaller outlets and we know these things, for God's sake. You know, I mean, come on. Don't be a dick. Don't be a fucking dick.
Simple. You know? Simple.
All right, guys. Anything to wrap it up? Any thoughts? Any additional talking points for Eternals talk for now?
Yeah, I will say that like if you did in fact like find enjoyment in the film, if you did get around to it and you liked it and you watched our whole thing, cool, then welcome. And I feel like, you know, the people who will get this movie, who will find enjoyment in this film, they're and I'm not saying everyone, you know, if you don't like it, you're an idiot. No, I feel like this movie will work in a very specific kind of person. And I kind of love when a big studio movie does that. I love it when they say, hey, maybe we'll take a risk and this isn't for everyone. And the fact that they went ahead and did this with one of the best filmmakers out there and trusted her into doing this the way that this was done, more power to them. And hopefully you see this movie, you enjoyed it, then there's something amazing that you can connect to. That's great. Fantastic. You know, you know what, if you're that person who was like, it's boring, I don't like it, I don't get it, fair. I think I know where I will stand with my taste compared to yours, and I mean that with all sincerity. You know?
I echo those sentiments. Look, I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to be a staunch defender of this movie no matter what. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. You know, I understand more than anything. I actually do understand if it's not for you, because I don't think it'll be for everyone. But I do implore people, give it a chance. It is not the average Marvel MCU movie, okay? For one thing, it's not your average Marvel Studios movie, but don't write it off because of that, okay?
Right.
Take a look at what it is accomplishing, both from a character perspective and also just from a thematic perspective. There's so many beautiful themes in here about humanity and about whether or not humanity, you know, what we do with free will, whether or not it's worth it to save a species like us, and why, and how that affects each of these, how that question affects each of these characters. Give it a chance and look at it in that lens and see if you enjoy it. If you still don't think it's your cup of tea, totally understandable, totally cool. Even if you don't look at it in that lens and you don't like it, it's not your cup of tea, totally cool. But I do implore you to give it that chance, to look at it in that lens and kind of respect what they're trying to do, and that this is a very different and very ambitious MCU film. You are getting exactly what you asked for in something that's different from the other films and something that's not nearly as connected to the rest of this storyline as all the other films that have come before it. So give it a chance, really don't write it off, and just, you know, enjoy Chloe Zhao and what she does, and this cast, this amazing cast, and their amazing characters for what they are. So yeah,
I think you guys nailed it. You know, there's so much to love about this movie, and it's just beautiful. And I don't think you've seen relationships that feel the way that these like the way that these feel. I don't know. We there's trauma, there's you know, you see the growth, you see isolation, you know, it's a lot, it's such a human story at the end of the day, yet also such a beautiful cosmic one. I think having an open mind is key to really enjoying this movie. And even if you watch like you, I think you guys put it, people aren't gonna like it, and if you didn't like it for whatever reason, that's okay. I just disagree. Yeah, I you know, I thoroughly enjoy everything that's like that. Everything that's implied will be coming. I think it's really exciting. But yeah, give it a shot. I think that's a great takeaway. Just give it a shot if you've somehow gotten to the end here.
Yeah.
After hearing that spoiler section, maybe go back and watch it again and give it a shot.
But that's it. I before we wrap up, of course, where can everyone find each other and their work? Mike?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at TidyBullBoy182, but also on thenerdsofcolor.org and at the Nerds of Color. Thank you guys for joining us. Law.
Yeah, I'm on all social media as Law J Sharma, and you can catch some of my work on cinemablend.com.
And then you can find I'm currently my interviews are now going to be showing up on the YouTube channel Nerds Rule the World. I'll be doing my first interview actually will be up by the time this episode should be up. It's for the president of the streaming site Fandor. So my interviews will be heading towards that YouTube channel from this point on. You can find me on Instagram at Justin Quiz and Twitter at Justin Quizon. And I'm also on TikTok, and I have movie talk there as well on TikTok at Justin Quizon. So that's where you can find me. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And till the next movie mixing up time, we'll see you later.
Bye.